This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, welcome again, everyone. My name is Jennifer Howard. I'm the director of the Turner Senior Wellness Program. I'm very happy and pleased to introduce Dr. Dewar, who is going to be speaking to you about weight changes in later years and how to make positive changes. Dr. Dewar, I will turn over the reins to you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your introduction and inviting me over. And thank you all who have tuned in. And I see 14 participants so far. That is great. So the topic which we are going to talk about, which I'm going to talk, and we are going to hoping for a good discussion, is effect of weight gain in later years and how to make positive changes. I think no other time period than now during the COVID, this topic has gained a lot of momentum, both locally and nationally and all across the world because of people's concern of weight gain during this time period. But today's talk will be mostly on its effect on older age. And as Jennifer said, I'm happy to take questions as we go, and feel free. I want this to be a very interactive session. So this is to show you how the trend in weight gain over the last 50 years is happening. As you see, over the last 30 years in this graph, I'm pointing with a mouse here, the slope is pretty steep. It is raising faster. It was not as fast in the 70s and 80s, but coming from 1990s to now 2010s and 2020, it's actually taking a much steeper rise. This is of very much importance to each one of us and to public health also. And this is because of the growth of the food industry, the microprocessed foods, which are high in pretty dense and high calories, sweetened sugars, and also saturated fats. And that is leading to this increase in obesity, which we call, and weight gain. So this is something which we need to know at the background, why it's happening to each one of us. So this is just a pictorial representation of weight gain as one passes through the age spectrum, from a 20-year-old to a 70-year-old. Just focus on the red circles and the yellow spindle shaped, that is a fat cell, and the red ones are the muscles. So as one advances in age, there is a disproportionate increase in fat, and also the muscle mass decreases. And that is one thing which is the real important focus, which we need to focus throughout this conversation, is increase in fat and loss of muscle strength. And that leads to obesity and its effect, which in technical term, which we call it sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting and muscle loss, muscle power loss. As you see in this older adult here at the very bottom, as one reaches around age 70 with obesity, the muscle spindle loses its strength, becomes smaller and less stronger because the fat is kind of, which we call infiltrating, getting into the muscle. So it leads to weakness, need and falls and fractures. And we'll talk more about this. So let's have a little background of what is BMI, which everyone talks about it, right? Your healthcare provider, when you go, says your BMI is like 32, 33. So what is BMI? It's a common tool for deciding whether a person has an appropriate body weight. It measures a person's weight in relation to their height. So according to NIH, National Institute of Health, a BMI of less than 18.5 is underweight, which we don't want to be. 18.5 to 24.9, close to 25 is ideal. 25 to 30 is overweight. And a BMI of 30 to 35 indicates obesity, which we call class 1 obesity. Kind of can say mild obesity, but it is still a problem, BMI of 30 and above. A BMI of over 35 and above indicates severe obesity, according to National Institute of Health. Some will say 40 and above, but technically 35 and above indicates severe obesity. So why is fat, worrisome? So protective fat actually is protective to some extent. This protective fat can become destructive if it exceeds proportions. So the fat cells are usually protective on major vital organs of our body, such as heart, kidney, liver, and pancreas. But if the fat capacity exceeds a certain limit, the fat cells rupture, it triggers inflammation, and a type of fat called triglycerides get deposited within the adipose tissue, within the fatty tissue. The type of fat called triglycerides, which your physician or your healthcare provider can check that level by a lipid panel. Triglycerides get checked and they say your triglyceride is more than 150, you want it to be less than 150. Some people have hypertriglyceridemia, which is very high triglycerides. So that gets deposited in the fat tissue. What it leads to is heart failure, which we call diastolic heart failure. When there is weight issue, there is another heart failure called systolic heart failure, which is usually in thinner individuals, and also it can happen in obese individuals too, but most common is diastolic heart failure. Chronic kidney disease, fatty liver disease, and diabetes, because it affects the 4 major organs, which we talked about. So more than BMI, which I showed you in the previous slide, what is more important is waist circumference. Using an inch tape to measure your waist circumference at the level of the belly button is actually an important measure, more reflective of the effect of fat and weight. BMI is just a very rough indicator. It is mostly used because it's easy to measure in a healthcare setting. Waist circumference is also getting measured. For example, if you come to my clinic, which is a Turner weight loss clinic, weight management clinic, which I'll talk about later, we measure the waist circumference because that gives us an indication of the abdominal fat, which is actually the more destructive fat, because I mentioned above. So why is weight an issue, right? It leads to falls. As I said, the fat can infiltrate the muscle, can cause inflammation. And when the muscles get weaker, the balance gets affected and you're not any more stable. There could be postural sway. There could be memory changes. Fat can affect the brain and can cause cognitive impairment, memory changes, fractures, interfere with mobility, walking, can start to affect quality of life and make one dependent on others for day-to-day activities. So what is the effect of weight gain on your physical health? Medical issues, which we are going to talk about. It causes high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, chronic kidney problems. And this chronic kidney problems, your doctor can say you have chronic kidney disease in your after visit summary. You can see that. And there is staging of chronic kidney disease 1 to 5 and can lead to kidney malfunction, acute kidney injury when somebody is admitted to the hospital, and kidney failure in very advanced stages. Heart disease, as I kind of alluded to that in the previous slides. Chronic lung disease, some people with weight issues can have asthma, COPD, trouble breathing when they walk a block. So that is chronic lung disease. Fatty liver, fat can infiltrate the liver and cause elevated liver enzymes, which your healthcare provider will do an LFT, liver function test, and say your liver enzymes are mildly elevated, could be fatty liver disease. Over the last 20 years, this fatty liver disease has gained a lot of health importance because we know now if you don't take care of fatty liver disease, it can advance to severe liver disease and can even lead to liver failure, which we call cirrhosis. So it is something which needs to be focused, taken care of, and can also lead to arthritis and difficulty walking. It can also affect one's mental status. Can have some depression because of weight-related issues, unable to do stuff, affecting quality of life. It can also make one anxious. So it has a lot of psychological impact. So finally, in this day and age, when we talk about COVID since March, obesity has a profound effect on the outcome of COVID. There are many reasons for that. weight gain individuals usually have some underlying lung disease, not all of them, but a good proportion of them can have underlying asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, heart disease, and diabetes. All these are kind of high risk conditions for COVID-19. So they already have underlying high risk conditions, which makes the outcome of COVID-19 very complicated when somebody is struggling with already weight and obesity. It can also cause decreased lung volumes. People with weight, their lung volumes are not at the same capacity as a normal weight individual. And the capacity and the expiratory reserve volumes are very much diminished. And there is also underlying inflammation, as I said, because of the rupture of the fat cells. There are a lot of inflammatory molecules already circulating in the body, interleukin, and there are a lot of named molecules which are already highly inflamed molecules circulating in the system, which makes COVID-19 very complicated to kind of cut through. So, what are we interested in is weight loss, right? Is weight loss safe in older adults is a big question. Until 2010, the science behind weight loss in older adults was very ambiguous. People were not comfortable saying that older people have to lose weight. Older I mean 60 plus, we can say. Physicians, healthcare providers, researchers still didn't have an answer, concrete answer to say that weight loss was safe. But starting 2011, we are able to say that weight loss can be safe in older adults. And it leads to a great improvement in medical conditions as well as physical strength. But one of the biggest fear which we had before 2010, and it is still ongoing fear, is what happens when an overweight, obese individual loses muscle mass and bone loss? Because once you lose weight, it's not only the fat which is lost, but along with fat loss, there's muscle loss and bone loss, which leads to walking difficulty, fall, and fractures. So it's not only walking difficulty due to obesity and weight, but also these can develop when one actually tries to lose weight, but in a kind of a non-programmed way. And we'll talk about more about the safe way to lose weight in the future slides. But ultimately, what researchers have found is definitely there's a gain in losing weight in older adults. If one does not focus on weight management as you age, obesity carries its own risk of heart disease, diabetes, joint stress, walking difficulty, activities of daily living dependence, and so forth. So the problems are numerous if you don't focus on weight management. But the key is it needs to be individualized to each person. And a middle-aged adult of 30 to 50, we can follow the principle of one size fits all. You go to the weight loss program, you eat a low-calorie diet, and you exercise, you do an exercise prescription, a weight loss diet, and we're all good. But an older adult, it needs to be individualized to each person when it comes to weight loss. So some of the ways which we can think about weight reduction is reduce the calorie intake in the food which we eat, and increase physical activity. I think we all know about this, calorie intake and increasing physical activity. Medications can help one lose weight, but it's still sketchy in older adults. And last is bariatric surgery. And this again, people might think go for medications more than bariatric surgery, but bariatric surgery has good outcomes on multiple metabolic medical complications in obesity. And I'll talk to you about which type of surgery in the later slide. So let's talk about calorie reduction, healthy eating, right? There is no strict number of calories. People say very low calorie diet, 800 kilocalories or 500 or 1000. It is not safe to do a very low calorie diet as we get older because it has its own repercussions and actually it's unsafe. So it's recommended to reduce 500 kilocalories less than the usual calculated calorie intake. And I will go over in the next slide how to do the calculation. Also need to take appropriate protein and dietary supplementation. The supplementation usually is calcium, vitamin D, based on the vitamin D level and the vitamin C. So the vitamin C levels are not usually checked, but the vitamin D level is usually checked by your clinicians. That is called 25 hydroxy vitamin D level. Often it gets checked, especially living in Michigan in low sunlight, starting from this month onwards. We don't get exposed and the vitamin D level is very low. And in someone who's overweight and obese, invariably, without even checking, we can say the vitamin D level low unless you're on supplementation. But vitamin D is such an important component for weight loss, for kind of a cellular mechanism to kind of a maintain weight loss. So it's good to check that level and take the supplement. Lean meat, fish, legumes, low-fat dairy is important to add in the food. In addition, use of high protein meal supplements or supplementation may also be beneficial. But to reduce and maintain a low calorie intake, something called mindfulness and mindful eating, it's a good technique to follow. There are a lot of behavioral therapists who can help with this kind of a learned technique, which will be very helpful to adopt. And I will talk to you about it in the later slide. So how would one calculate the calorie requirement on a day-to-day basis? So if I may copy and paste this. I don't think that's easy to do. Okay. I'm trying to show you here how to go into the website and do this calculation for everyone based on your age and your calorie requirement. I hope you can see this page. It's the dietary guidelines, very recent, to show what is the calorie requirement based on your age and your level of physical activity. If it is sedentary, moderately active, or very active, and based on your age, how much is your everyday calorie requirement, okay? So I put that link, and when Jennifer shares the video, you will have that link. So I'm going to switch back to my presentation. So, but that is the total calorie requirement I showed you per day, depending on your age and depending on the level of activity, how active you are. If you want to achieve a slow and safe weight loss, you want to deduct 500 kilocalories from that calorie requirement, okay? So your nutritionist can help you with that, but I just want you to have a tool to have a fair idea. So I talked a little bit about the mindfulness, because unless you have a little bit of a mindfulness learned technique, it's very hard to adapt a strict diet whenever your physician or a nutritionist is going to recommend, because mindfulness gives you the lifetime learned art activity of eating, okay? And there are a lot of people who administers this mindfulness, but I think that is something, a technique which one person who's struggling with weight need to learn and adopt. So it's mindful eating or eating with awareness. Learned ability to be open, accepting, and present in the moment when you eat. Ability to control emotional reactions and adapt as needed. Mindful individuals demonstrate more self-compassion, self-regulation, self-control, and emotional regulation. And what is mindful eating? So by learning this art of mindfulness, you develop the mindful eating habit. You become more aware of the physical signs of hunger. So you just don't eat even if you're not hungry. So one day when you're hungry, you really go to the kitchen or approach your meals to eat. You also know to attend to your satiety cues, your satisfaction to eating cues. and you actually control the pace of eating, the speed of eating. And you know the food environment, the environment you are, and try to avoid the food environment, which actually is a stimulus for eating, and the characteristics of food. You learn all these if you learn the skill of mindfulness and develop the art of mindfulness. These cues are very fundamental to regulate and control the urge to consume high-calorie foods. If you practice, you tend to have lower problematic eating habits and consume smaller serving of high-calorie foods. So let's talk a little bit of the diet pattern, DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet. I'm sure you would have learned about DASH diet or heard about it from your healthcare provider, especially if you're having high blood pressure. That is one kind of a diet which is usually recommended. So the two diets which is actually good, healthy, and no risk to adapt is DASH diet and Mediterranean diet. And I have some labels on that. The grains, the vegetables, the fruits, the fat content in both, the lean meat, and the nuts and seed distribution in both type of diet. There is actually good evidence from research and science that these two diets have shown improvements in blood sugar, other metabolic parameters. It can help with weight loss. It can help with long-term disability. It can improve memory and actually risk of death. Physical activity, how much to do? So the American College of Sports Medicine suggests at least 150 minutes of low to moderate intensity aerobic activity in all patients, including older adults. This is per week. It can incorporate flexibility, balance, strength activities with resistant bands or weights. You can do free weights or weights attached to the wrist or legs. Common household items, if you don't have free weights or resistance bands, common household items like milk gallon, soup cans can be used, half a gallon, not the whole gallon. Weekly goals should be 2 to 3 days a week, at least. You should involve in not 1 day. 1 day will be very insufficient. 2 to 3 days, or even 4 to 5 days in a week would be a good kind of a weight loss, where at least weight maintenance pattern with at least 48 hours of rest between sessions would be good. Each session should last about 30 to 40 minutes, and you can rotate between muscle groups, 10 to 12 repetitions for each session. You may feel fatigue, but that is common, and it's actually a little bit advisable to have that level of mild fatigue. It is important to prevent injuries. One thing which is really, really important to focus is injuries are prone to happen, especially when somebody has a little bit of an overweight or obese pattern in their body. And to prevent injuries by starting low and going slow, starting with 1 to 2 pound weights, the lowest resistance color band. And if you have trouble or have not a great confident knowledge on these things, physical therapists can help you. They can assess where you are in kind of your exercise knowledge and kind of guide you through that process. And I often do that for my weight management patients. So let's talk a little bit about what is aerobic exercise and what is resistance exercise, because both of these exercises are very important. Apart from low calorie, calorie reduction, I said 500 calorie reduction rather from your daily calorie requirement, we also need to incorporate exercise, because calorie reduction alone does not produce healthy weight loss. We need to have this aerobic exercise and resistance exercise. Let's kind of learn a little bit about this. This is important, the reason being to improve cardiac performance. Aerobic improves cardiac performance. Resistance exercise improves muscle strength. So exercise which leads to sweating, makes you breathe hard. When you feel the heart is beating fast, when you sustain that activity for a few minutes, that actually produces benefit in the body. It needs to be sustained. It's just not a minute or two and then you feel tired, you just come off. It needs to be sustained. That's aerobic, also called cardio. It's sustained for more than just a few minutes while your heart, lungs, and muscles work over time. These are some examples of aerobic activities: brisk walking, jogging, swimming, water aerobics, tennis, golfing, aerobic exercise classes. You can join dancing. It's not the class which I would recommend now during the COVID period of social isolation. Dancing, bicycle riding, and use of cardio equipment like elliptical machines, stair climbing machines, stationary bikes, and treadmills. These all belong to aerobic, where you feel your heart rate beating, you're breathing a lot, and your muscles are put into work. If you cannot do above, which is very understandable, not everybody is ready to do everything on any of these, at least we need to focus on avoiding the sedentary behavior, to sit less and move more, and add light activities such as short walks. I mean, I've even recommended patients to actually get up and walk in your living room for every commercial. So even that benefits. That is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay, your body actually breaks down and generates heat while you're doing even minimal activity or avoiding sedentary behavior. Resistance exercises. So I have some examples here with weights. They are the biceps curls, shoulder press, depends on which muscle group you're putting work to. It could be the upper arm muscles, the bicep curls, shoulder press, bench press, barbell squats, and bent over row. Some traditional resistance exercises without weights are push-ups, chin-ups, sit-ups, and body squats. So I think I covered quite a bit right now. Jennifer, I can take a pause to take any questions which have been posted so far.
All right, again, as a reminder, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A box toward the bottom of the screen, and we'll pause. I don't have any questions in queue right now, so let's give just a quick second. If any pop up, we'll go ahead and answer those, but otherwise, I'll just remind everybody that as you have questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box as you have them. That way they'll queue up, and then when Dr. Dewar answers questions, we'll go ahead and get those answered right away. And I have no open questions at this time, so feel free to continue.
Sounds good. So what happens with diet-only weight loss? So if one tries to do just diet alone without focusing on exercise, that was not recommended. That actually gets into trouble. That actually leads to muscle loss and bone mass. So bone mass is osteoporosis, prone for fractures, and muscle mass means weakness, difficulty walking, difficulty getting up, difficulty performing tasks. So we need to incorporate exercise if one wants to focus on weight management or weight loss. So exercise is the one which helps to preserve the muscle and the bone mass. And along with exercise, it's good to have some protein supplementation. I would not go overboard on increasing a lot of protein. It's definitely good to consult with your physician or a nutritionist. It all depends on the kidney functions, how much your kidney can excrete a big load of protein. So a lot of people with weight issues have some kidney malfunction. So it's good to consult with your physician and your nutritionist on that aspect, the protein supplementation. But the protein is important as you do a workout and tries to, target some weight loss. And the protein consumption should be throughout the day as opposed to just evening only. Because studies have shown if you take protein with breakfast, lunch, and dinner or in between, but distributed throughout the day has much profound beneficial effect than just consumed in the evening, which normally people tend to do. So I kind of mentioned about weight loss medicines. Weight loss medicines are very commonly used in younger adults, even in going down to 20 and even teenagers. That's metformin, which is a weight loss medicine, which is a diabetic medication, which is usually for weight loss even in teenagers. But when it comes to older adults, it's highly debatable. But definitely metformin is a good medicine to consider. Based on a lot of profile, your physician can recommend metformin, but I'm talking about the weight loss medicine, which is not just metformin, the other 5 weight loss medicines. There are 1 or 2 which can be used sparingly, especially if you're diabetic, but otherwise it needs to be proceeded with extreme caution and monitoring, and your physician and your team needs to decide based on your medical condition and your level of engagement with the weight management program, if you're an appropriate candidate. So one other question which people might have is bariatric surgery safe as you get older. Yes, bariatric surgery actually reached a big boom from 2000 to 2010. There was a big rise in bariatric surgery, but there was a big question: is it safe in older adults? But more studies are coming out that it is actually could be safer. I don't. More than being safer, it's actually more effective with a lot of metabolic complications associated with weight, with arthritis, with bariatric surgery. And there's only one surgery, actually it came out this year, that sleeve gastrectomy is preferable to gastric bypass due to less complications in older adults. But that doesn't mean every adult 60 and above with a certain BMI are eligible. There are big screening criteria for bariatric surgery. You have to prove that you've attempted a kind of a dietary and an exercise pattern of weight loss, and medical conditions are safe to undergo the surgery, and it is valuable. There's a lot of steps which can take 6 months to 1 year, and you be in a medical weight program, which I'll talk about it for 6 months to a year and prove yourself, and then you can be eligible if you meet certain criteria. So there are actually, we need to be very careful during a weight loss. Okay. Why we need to be careful? Because as one tends to lose weight, there are changes happening with respect to the metabolism in the body. Your insulin requirement may come down because your muscles are working hard. The insulin resistance, which is normally there in overweight and obese individuals, comes down because of the exercise and the low calorie food you're taking. Insulin resistance comes down, the insulin requirement comes down. So if somebody is on insulin and you are on an oral diabetic agent like metformin or glyburide or you name it, it can lead to low blood sugars, and low blood sugars are very dangerous. They are even more dangerous than high blood sugar. So as one undergoes some weight management program takes part, we need to be very cautious about the changes which can take place when you start to lose weight. Mechanically, you can lead to injury to your joints and ligaments. So it's good to kind of listen to your body and engage in a program safe. So this is the big challenge. I wish we have more answers to this. Weight regain, which is called weight cycling or yo-yo dieting, which is so common. It's not an individual's fault. And every patient who comes to my weight management program gets upset after a couple of months, the weight regains back. And it is not anyone's fault. It is kind of how the brain is tuned. There is a kind of what we call a thermostat. Okay, it's called a setting point in the brain, a portion of the brain called hypothalamus, which controls. Like it actually wants to control one's weight to the previous weight. It fights so much to maintain the weight to the pre-obese weight, even though you engage in a dietary program or a weight loss program of such sort. So weight loss is associated with adaptive body defense mechanism. So develop increased hunger, and there's a food reward behavior, which actually goes on as a circuit in the brain. And there's also decreased energy expenditure. So there are some research which has been done between obese individuals and normal weight individuals, and they both lose weight. But the obese individuals who lost weight, their brain wants to reset their body to the same pre-weight by a lot of mechanisms. So it is not anyone's fault, but it's just the body which is trying to regain to the previous weight. That is called the weight cycling or the yo-yo dieting, which often is met. So this is a little graph what I have here showing the yo-yo effect, right? Weight loss and then weight regain. I'm sure every one of us have dealt with, including me. So there are some definite ways to deal with it. As I talked to you about mindful eating, and bariatric surgery are one among them, but not everybody is going to do bariatric surgery. Mindful eating is something which you can learn to adopt. So aging with weight over a period of time, if we let weight go on for a period of time, what happens is we get into trouble with day-to-day mobility, right? Because the fat is slowly replaced by muscle, and the fat doesn't work the same way as muscle to pull to do its function. Okay? And also this gets complicated when someone is deconditioned. So the decondition can happen in situations like fall with fracture, or when one gets sick, either at home, sick and not able to get up from the bed for a week, or deconditioned in the hospital. So they get immobile, and then even though you're 60 or 70, you need a rehab to kind of get your strength back. So, studies have shown that overweight, and obese individuals can get actually more deconditioned pretty easily, and they may need rehab at a younger age because of all these underlying mechanisms, what I explained so far. So with all these things, what we have mentioned, how much systems in the body are affected, how much the muscle is affected, how much the heart and other important organs are affected. Weight management needs a team approach. And just not by just a physician or just not by yourself. If you really need to do it in a programmed way, when you want to be successful, for some time, at least 2 to 3 years, if you try to reduce weight and maintain it, then it's easy to kind of get that going. But so you need a team to kind of help. Usually physician, dietitian, physical therapist. And in my experience, I often have seen that few specialists might be needed. It depends on which organ is affected. And I will show you in the later pictures or slides. So with all these in mind, we have developed a kind of a lifestyle weight management clinic at Turner. Myself, I am board certified in bariatric medicine. So this is called Optimal Health Weight and Lifestyle Clinic. It is actually in the Turner Geriatric Clinic itself. So what's our goal? It's to improve mobility and quality of life. What we know is each person's life with weight issues has a unique combination of medical issues. Not everyone has the same level of medical issue. Not everyone has a heart affected, lung affected, fatty liver, diabetes and stuff. Everybody has a unique combination of a set of medical issues. Usually around 12 to 15 is what I've seen with everyone walking into the weight management. Years, and now we're getting into the 60s. So there is a set of medical issues which come along with it. So it needs an individualized treatment plan based on a unique combination of issues. So each patient's plan can be very unique depending on the issues, depending on the pain, and depending on the arthritis they experience, and what is their focus in life. So it is an individualized treatment plan. And it's also interdisciplinary. So when one walks into the weight management clinic for the first appointment, or even prior to the appointment through the portal, they'll be asked to fill questionnaires at the initial visit and every 6 months to kind of assess the physical, mental, and emotional health, and also interference with the social activities, which is key in life. We want to be engaged in the world and in the day-to-day activities and our families and relatives, and as a role as a person. And to know your level of pain interfering with day-to-day activities. The questionnaires are targeted towards physical, mental, emotional health, social activities, level of pain, and to assess shortness of breath interfering with day-to-day activities. So most often we see overweight, obesity, especially class 2, class 3, leads to shortness of breath, difficulty walking for 2 blocks, which may not be just because of underlying asthma and COPD, but also because of weight. So we have questionnaires targeting that, and our goal is to see improvement over 6 months to 1 year as one engages in the weight management program. This is a snapshot of the organs affected, actually, due to weight over a period of years. So in the first slide, if you remember the dots, the red dots and the yellow fat in the chest and the abdomen, this is what it leads to the major visceral organs. We talked about the heart, we talked about the liver, pancreas, and kidney, the 4 major organs. So the lung here can get affected. People can have COPD and asthma. Heart can get affected due to leading to heart failure. Liver can develop fatty liver, cirrhosis, and liver failure. And kidney can lead to chronic kidney disease and kidney failure, and involvement of obesity with skeletal muscles can lead to weakness and falls. So invariably, I don't want to quote the percentage. A lot of people have pain due to weight, right? Because there are two mechanisms of why weight leads to pain. Because of altered metabolic profile, because fat is inflammatory. Inflammation means pain. So there's an altered metabolic profile, and mechanical stress to the joint. So mechanical and chemical. So metabolic profile and mechanical distress can lead to structural damage, knee pain, limited mobility, and knee osteoarthritis. So this is just knee. So people with weight-related issues can have pain in the shoulders, wrists, finger joints, back, which is very common, lumbosacral, which is lower back, hip pain, knee pain, and foot pain. So pain is so predominant among weight individuals. And we target that. Almost everyone who walks into my clinic comes with some type of pain. So these are proven now with the evolution of weight loss science. We kind of know now that weight loss via diet and exercise, I'm saying diet and exercise, right? Always it's diet and exercise together. Reduces pain, improves function, improves quality of life in older adults with knee arthritis. That has been proven. And one MET improvement in fitness. MET improvement is kind of a scale to show how much you can exert in your aerobic activity. That is associated with 17% lower risk of heart failure. So definitely weight loss is beneficial, and there are a lot of data coming from the researchers on this. So this is just to show you how much weight loss, a percentage of weight loss reduces cardiac risk. But I think this is a slide more for younger adults because we cannot achieve this weight loss of 20%, and I'm not sure if that is safe even. But to just show you that losing weight improves cardiometabolic risk, okay? When the metabolic risk, metabolically unhealthy obesity, and you show high cholesterol, hypertension, high glucose, insulin resistance, fatty liver, visceral obesity. We talked about all these today, right? Metabolic unhealthy obesity. If you lose 10% of weight, which is actually called the successful weight loss, you become a metabolically healthy obese, which with no dyslipidemia, no hypertension, no hyperglycemia, insulin resistance improves, fatty liver improves, visceral obesity improves. And if you attain weight loss of 20%, cardiometabolic risk is very low. But this is just to show that some weight loss is beneficial. And I'm not here telling that we need to achieve 10% or 20%. Even if you achieve 3% with improving function is much better than targeting a weight loss percentage, which is not recommended for older adults. So what's our goal at Turner Geriatric Clinic in the OWL program, which is Optimal Health, Weight and Lifestyle Program, is to improve the high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, heart disease, chronic lung disease, fatty liver, leading to liver malfunction, arthritis, and difficulty with mobility. So we have, I'm almost at the end. We have a patient-centered model. You know, when a patient walks in, we capture with all these questionnaires where they are coming from in their physical health, mental health, emotional health, social participation, pain and shortness of breath by the questionnaires. We have 1 hour appointment with me where I try to assess their one's medical conditions. I said 12 to 15, and we see where they are. And most of them average around 8 to 12 and sometimes 15. And with that, we kind of come up with a plan. So it is an interdisciplinary approach, right? So we have myself, physician, we have a dietitian, we have a physical therapist, and we are still in search of a psychologist, which we don't have right now. So this is kind of a patient-centered model. Patient individualized plan is designed for the patient at the first visit, which is 1 hour. And then we have every 2 months follow-up. So this patient-centered model, this one is a much bigger model. It may need a bariatric surgeon at some point, when only very few percentage are eligible. Obesity medicine, who's myself, a psychologist, if you can get one, and education and exercise are always recommended. Sometimes the nurses are helping you with all the treatments for diabetic control and so forth, and support groups. So we call it an optimal health and weight management clinic, weight management and lifestyle clinic. You will have follow-up visits every 2 months after the first visit for an hour, every 2 months, a half an hour visit. We don't have an end date for this program. Usually an adult, which is the middle age, the programs for weight loss are usually up to 2 years. And after that, once anyone is successful for 2 years, the body kind of resets to a different thermostat and tries to maintain it. But the rebound or the weight cycling happens before 2 years. But in older adult, during those 1 to 2 years when somebody is working with a weight management specialist like me or anyone, there could be so many ups and downs, there could be so many setbacks, sometimes hospital admissions due to heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and so forth. So this can go on for a longer time. Okay, it's not set for only 2 years. After 2 years, the frequency of visits is spread out, depending on the patient, if they're able to come, if they feel there's a benefit to the program. The roadblocks to engage in physical activity is explored and approached systematically. Not everybody is ready to jump onto physical activity. They may have pain with the knee and they may need an injection, referral to an orthopedics, or titrate their pain medications, or control their diabetes to kind of reduce the inflammation. So there are so many roadblocks to engage in physical activity. That is explored during this weight management visits. You will work with a nutritionist for usually 6 to 10, but there is no set criteria for the number of visits. A physical therapist is also involved in the program. If there's joint and muscle related issues, joint pain, which is interfering with your engaging in a physical activity like ankle pain or knee pain, then you have a visit with a physical therapist for a couple of sessions to get you kind of moving in the right direction. The main goal of this program is to reduce your cardiovascular risk, to improve, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, that is cardiovascular risk, improve blood pressure, diabetes, and delay or treat heart disease and kidney disease, to improve mobility, pain, prevent falls, and thereby enhance quality of life. And that's more important than actually trying to attain a weight loss of 5%, 10%, or 20%. I think in older adult, improving mobility, living with less pain, preventing any future falls will improve quality of life. I'm open for questions.
Okay, and Dr. Dewar, we actually have a number of questions now, and still coming in. So We'll start at the top. Somebody, and this is a comment, but maybe you can comment on that. It said, I had heard it was better to be a bit overweight than underweight as an older adult.
Fantastic question. Yes, that is very correct. Overweight is protective in older adults for many reasons. So that is correct, and that's great. Good knowledge base already.
Okay, fantastic. The next question is, what are the best protein choices for my vegan lifestyle?
So, to start with, there are soy protein, almond protein, nuts, if you're not allergic. Those are good source. Like a good snack is 10 to 12 almonds soaked in water, put in the fridge. That would be a high source. Peanuts are not that great compared to almonds, but soy protein, almonds, and nuts and legumes. There are so many varieties of beans and so forth. And our nutritionists can give you some guidance more if you want, but these are good to start with.
Fantastic. The next question related, is there guidance about amount of protein per day based on weight, age, and activity?
It's a good question. Great. I was expecting that when I mentioned about the protein. So, normally we say 0.8 to 1 grams per kg per day, but for increasing the protein, it could be 1 to 1.2 grams per
Okay.
kg per day of protein intake. And I work with a nutritionist, Erin Scarlett, in my program, and usually she works with the patient one-on-one through her 6 to 8 visits to kind of titrate the protein and go down on on the calories. So these are great things to kind of work one-on-one with the nutritionist too.
Okay, fantastic. Next question, can you comment on, in quotes, getting stuck in a weight loss process, especially among older adults, metabolic rate?
Can you repeat that question one more time? Sorry. Jen.
Yeah, it said, can you comment on, in quotes, getting stuck in a weight loss process, especially among older adults? And then in parentheses, it says metabolic rate.
Metabolic rate?
Maybe in terms of metabolic rate.
Yeah. I can understand the complexities in the weight loss, which I kind of alluded to, kind of the weight cycling. So getting stuck with weight loss in older adult, it is not surprising. We do see this, that is kind of the norm, but actually it takes a lot of, continued longitudinal follow-up with a team like us to kind of see where the problem is. At every 2 months, we kind of reassess. Right? Slowly, by engaging in low calorie, healthy, high protein, combined with physical activity and wrenching up the physical activity as you go in terms of minutes, having both aerobic and resistance component in the physical activity. At the same time, paying for attention to the diet with calories and protein and going along the pathway, you kind of try to reset the brain thermostat to a lower level. It's so fascinating about the weight loss. So it is not only pertaining to older adults, it can happen in young adults too. So there comes the role of meal replacement. I kind of focus on that a lot because I don't believe in meal replacement for everyone. There are select individuals who are really struggling with or stuck, what you called, stuck in the weight management program. There is a role for meal replacement. Meal replacement is a low-calorie diet, but needs to be done very safe. There needs to be monitoring, a kind of a DEXA scan to measure the fat and the muscle because we don't want to lose muscle. So in a stuck pattern, there are other options called meal replacement. There is a metabolic fitness program at Domino's where I've referred patients to. It's a little bit wrenched up physical activity program looking at the metabolic profile, meal replacement, and also medications. Some patients, if their liver and the kidney are all functioning great, and they're really engaged in a behavioral program, and they're really struggling, there is a role for medications. So there is a way to pull these people who are stuck up, but I think the overall goal is, are they improving in function and quality of life? Definitely weight loss is good too. So there are options that's why I think it's good to work with a person who has a knowledge base in the weight loss to kind of see where the stuck up issue comes. When does it come? Usually it's to 6 to 9 months when engaged in a program. So it's a great question, and I think it needs to be worked one-on-one, and every person is so different from the other. So I cannot give a generalized talk. It may be harmful for others. It may be good for that particular person.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next question, do you have any extra tips for those of us with hypothyroid? I take medications, but it is still difficult to have weight loss. Also, how much of my weight problem is genetic?
Oh, that's a very tough question. Definitely weight, having a genetic underpinning is there. It's a combination of genetic and environmental. How much? It's a very difficult question. That is definitely a bigger contribution of genetics to weight, for sure. But question is, can I control it? It's possible. Can I reverse it? I'm not sure. Definitely you can control to the point of a healthy weight. So you can control your metabolism, even though your weight is not actually going to underweight, but improving from BMI class 3 to class 2 is possible. Genetics definitely works against you, but definitely you can work to improve your metabolic profile. And the first part of the question is, I think, what was the first part?
It was, do you have any extra tips for those of us with hypothyroid?
Hypothyroid, yeah.
Mhm.
That's a question which is even challenging because some people target a TSH level of 2 and below. So hypothyroid, is it managed by the endocrinologist? So it needs to be, the thyroid supplementation needs to be taken to such a way that you want to maintain a TSH within a narrow range of closer to 2, because sometimes general practitioners try to maintain it around 5, just bring them to below the level of the higher cutoff. So there is a role, but how much hypothyroid alone contributes, it's not a whole lot. It could be somewhere between 6 to 7 pounds. It's not a whole lot. So I know we need to control the thyroid, but there could be other problems also. As such, there's no one actual cause for the weight. It is a combination, and it starts with one cause, but then others actually pile up. So it needs to be approached in a kind of from multiple dimensions. Definitely thyroid is something which we check at the first visit, thyroid, vitamin D, uric acid, we check a lot of labs, and thyroid is something which you need to fix. How much to fix is a question that we can work one-on-one. The range, how to control, how much to supplement is a science which is evolving, and there are varying endocrine society has a different recommendation, weight management society has a different recommendation, so we can talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. The next question is there a recommended book or publication for mindful eating?
Mindful eating, I've not come up with a book. I have to ask my behavioral science specialist here in our department if they can, they have a recommended book. I don't have any so far. I can look for one and I'll let you know, Jennifer.
That would be great. If you have any follow-up resources, books, or anything that you find, if you send those to me, I will send it to everybody who registered for the seminar.
That would work. I can work on that for sure.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
The next question, does Medicare cover costs of the clinic?
Very good question. I think I get this question almost every day. I had this presentation to Michigan yesterday on a research basis, and that was the first question I had. So does Medicare cover this weight management clinic? No, Medicare does not cover. But the way I have designed this clinic is to focus not on weight loss. So it is not a weight loss clinic. The focus is addressing the multiple, I call it technically comorbid conditions, multiple weight-related medical conditions, right? One has around 12 to 15 medical conditions when you have weight coming on to 60 and 70 years. So we address the medical conditions every visit. Half an hour is very less. So the visit is built based on medical complexity. Hypertension, diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes, difficulty walking, metabolic syndrome. These are the diagnoses, and the codes are your regular office visit codes. So it is not a weight loss code. So Medicare does not get into it. So is it a weight loss program or not? It is a, tuning into the medical problems, taking good care of the medical issues.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next question, how are you handling COVID if I come to the clinic?
Good question. Yes, in the peak of COVID during March, April, a lot of my weight management, even though they were first visits, a 1 hour visit where I really like to see the people in person. I need to kind of get connected to them, and I can get only connected only if they are one-on-one in the room, right? It's not easy. So I was doing video visits, and I'm actually the video visit champion for the division. So I went on with the video visits even for my weight management patients. So that can be done remotely. Although I would prefer for some visits, a first visit, which is a 1 hour visit, and every 6-month visit to be in-person visits. But if it's peak COVID time, that rule goes off. We can do video visits, but then we need to have the weight, the blood pressure, and all the vital signs taken at home, and then we can have a dialogue. We can assess the medical complexities and so forth. So actually, compared to other acute clinic visits, weight management visits are very easy to be done via video. except the first and the 6 months, where I like to do some hand grip muscle strength testing, where I have the hand grip meter and stuff. So I would like to an in-person visit. But I think safety is first. During peak COVID, everything goes off. No more, less monitoring, but more kind of adherence, behavior management. So that is how we are handling it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Practical question, who do I call to sign up for the clinic? Is there a phone number?
It's a Turner Geriatric Clinic phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have it, Jennifer? Or
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's 734-764-6831.
I'm going to look it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the phone number. I have it on. I have it on a little sticker
that's
behind
correct.
me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I can throw that in the chat as well.
Yes.
Okay. I think you addressed this before. The question is, what is the cost of the clinic?
Yeah, I kind of addressed this before. It's through your insurance. It's for medical management. Like how you go see your physician for hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, and so forth. That is the billing which we do. Because truly, there is no one person walking into my clinic with no problems. As I said, the minimal number of problems is 8 to 10. So the billing is based on the medical problems, just like how you go see your regular physician. So the referrals come from my other geriatric physicians to me. They are managing as primary care physicians. I'm managing as a specialist, but still the billing is based on just the medical problems you have. So it goes through the insurance and gets processed in the way, just like how you see your doctor. If that answers the question, I'm not sure.
I think it does. We have just a couple of comments. One person said, I have lost 48 pounds since starting Bydureon for my diabetes. This is such a great medication. I don't know if I pronounced the medication correctly, but that was one comment. And another comment just said, I'm learning so much from this excellent presentation. I will be treating my weight problems more seriously.
That's great.
That's
Very
a great
happy
thing.
to hear that. Thank you for the compliment.
And that wraps us up for questions, Dr. Dewar.
Sure, thank you. So let me answer the question before, the Bydureon question for diabetes and weight. Looks like he or she has lost tremendous amount of weight. Congratulations. Yes, Bydureon is a very effective medication unless it is kind of treated by an endocrinologist or a physician who knows about weight and diabetes, because there might need to be some monitoring, and weight loss drastically can lead to muscle loss. So we need to be very careful how the diet is programmed, how the exercise is programmed around this weight loss. Otherwise, you can hurt yourself a little more. So hopefully everything is going well, and I think so, but I think it needs to be from a person who knows exactly, just not prescribing the medicine. Sometimes I've seen cardiologists who I respect them so much, they just start them on complicated medications. But I think in older adults, when it comes, it needs just a little more monitoring and advice of taking the proteins and building up the muscle strength while you're losing the weight.
Okay. All right, excellent, thank you. I have confirmed Turner Geriatric Clinic's number in the chat, so that is there. I've also put my email address in the chat, so if anybody has any questions or needs resources later, you're welcome to email me and I will make sure that you are connected. And with that, Dr. Dewar, I think that we're wrapped up. So I want to thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I learned a number of things today that I can take with me too. So I really appreciate the information and for your time today.
Thank you, Jennifer, for calling me. I've been trying to postpone this for 1.5 years, and finally you didn't allow me any further.
I know you were really hoping for an in-person presentation, but COVID had other ideas for us. So I'm so glad that you were able to try it in this format. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you all for listening. And thank you for the compliments. Bye now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.